Hello everyone, my name is Mr. and welcome back to a video. Now today, I'm going to be reacting to Penguin Zero's brave take on the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie. I want to react to this video because ever since my video that I made on the FNAF 2 movie, my thoughts, I've seen a lot of stuff over TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, a lot of negative things about this movie. And I kind of want to hear what, Penguin Zero has to say, because he's a very smart guy and he can explain things extremely well. And I just want to kind of get his perspective on the movie because, like I said before, he's a smart guy. He can explain things extremely well, better than probably anyone else I know, really. So that's why we're going to react to this video. By the way, in the unlikely event of him watching my video, I'm not here to attack him. I just want to watch and react to see what he has to say about the FNAF 2 movie because I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere on Twitter or TikTok or somewhere, I can't remember, of him saying that he doesn't like it. So maybe he could enlighten me about it. So, enough said, let's just jump in and see what he has to say.
Am I the biggest Five Nights at Freddy's fan in the world? Nope. But, did I see the first film?
Also, if you do hear some background noises, don't mind that. It's extremely windy where I live, so.
Yes. Did I like it? No. But, I could understand why others did. So, I just saw the second film. Did I like it? Nope. But this time, I can't understand why others seem to like it.
Does he can't or can't?
But this time, I can't understand why others seem to like it.
Okay, then. This is
I know it's
interesting.
getting, absolutely spanked when it comes to, critic reviews and stuff, but most people, myself included, don't really give a fuck about critic reviews these days. But what I am seeing is a lot of...
I'm pretty sure, on the critic rating, it was 13%, and the fan rating, it was, I think, 86, I think. And people need to realise that Five Nights at Freddy's 2, right, the movies, they're for the fans. They're not for critics, they're for fans who enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's, because there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of fans out there who like Five Nights at Freddy's. So, having so many people watch, Five Nights at Freddy's is good for Scott Cawthon and, the directors who made Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So, just remember, this is a fan movie. It's not meant to be for people who don't understand Five Nights at Freddy's.
Plays for the film.
And I don't know if Penguin Zero, understands Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm assuming he doesn't, that's why he doesn't like it. But that's fair, If he doesn't like it, he doesn't like it. That's his opinion.
From fans of the property, which... I understand that there's a level of enthusiasm for an IP where you will swallow any shit that gets farted down your throat. I understand that. There is a level of fandom where it doesn't matter if it's objectively terrible. You are just happy it exists, and the fact that it is something that you can go put your peepers on
exactly.
for an hour and a half
Thank you.
is good enough. Everything else doesn't matter. You can point at the screen going, I know that! And that's all you need. Oh, also, speaking on that, special shout out to my auditorium in particular. The entire row behind me was talking from start to finish about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's. I felt like I was listening to the fucking Fazbear Fan Club podcast behind me. The entire goddamn movie. Every time someone's name was mentioned, I heard them talking about their significance to the plot in the games. Anytime they recognize...
Oh, it's so true. Oh my god. When me and my mate went to see the FNAF 2 movie, we had people behind us just talking non-stop about, something. Like, you can slightly hear them, They're at a levelness of, you can hear them, but they're not annoying. You know what I mean? I think it's because, we went to Odeon, and the space between each row is quite large. So, I didn't really hear them much, but they did speak quite a lot, and loud enough to the point where you can hear it, but not get annoyed by it. If you know what I mean. So, yeah, I could have the same experience, but not really.
Something on screen for all the fan service, they'd point it out. So even though I myself am kind of a fucking homunculus when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's lore, I promise you, every single Easter egg and fan service moment in here that was sprinkled in the film, I know about now. I know because they pointed it out loudly every single...
What about, I love his room. God, it's such a cool room he has, Love the setup he has.
Time. One of them even sang one of the songs that is apparently associated with the Easter egg that was presented here. So trust me.
Oh, is he I think he's talking about the end of the FNAF 2 movie because it played "It's Been So Long" by the Living Tombstone. I think that's it. By the way, soundtracks. I've already mentioned it in my video, but soundtracks throughout the entirety of the FNAF 2 movie were on point. I say it's better than the original. You know, I love the soundtrack so much, especially the title sequence. That was amazing.
I mean,
Oh,
I got every single reference in this one. I got the big time full blown Glup Shido experience here for sure. But even outside of that group, I am still seeing a lot of people saying, like, this is just for the fans and the fans alone.
yeah.
And okay, fair enough. But I would say, even if you're the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, this film is just still kind of weak. However,
I do slightly agree. Like, I'm saying it's not as great as the first one. The first one is still probably the best one out of the two. Well, there's only two films, so yeah. So it's definitely the first one is definitely better than the second one. But like, I'm not an insane FNAF fan as I used to be. You know, I'm a big fan of Playtime now, and I still love FNAF to the bottom of my heart. And I have slightly gone back to FNAF. Like, I listen to FNAF music when I'm doing my college work because why not? So even though I'm not a big fan, I still love Five Nights at Freddy's a lot. But I can understand where he's coming from, as you know, it is a very weak movie. I don't think it's like extraordinarily weak, but I do see where some parts are very weak.
cold hard truth of it is, it doesn't matter if the film is weak. The fact that it exists at all is satisfactory to tons of people.
Exactly, yeah. I still say this till this day, right? The fact is that we got a FNAF movie in the first place is just extraordinarily amazing. I still say that because you know I never thought in like a million years as becoming a FNAF fan we would get a FNAF movie. Like I'm pretty sure it's been in the making for since 2015, and Scott Cawthon scrapped it so many times because he doesn't like the script, and we finally got a perfect script. So I'm happy about it.
Already. Like, even if the film is mid or bad, this film does what I think most fans of the property want it to do. It shows them the things that they already loved from the IP, from the games, on the big screen. And they give you a lot to chew on that you'll recognize from the games. And that's enough for people to have a very positive experience with the film. And if
I think people are blinded by the fact is like FNAF 2 it resembles a Final Fantasy 2, the game. So that is like a big point as well. You know, when we had Mike Smith in the FNAF 2 office, you know, just controlling stuff. I think a lot of people, you know, got into that because it was like, oh my god, it's FNAF 2. Like, you see what I mean?
you're in that camp, all power to you. I'm happy that you're happy with it.
Sorry, I'm still ill, by the way.
But as someone who is not the biggest fan of the games, I don't think this movie stands on its own two legs overly well. There are two things I think it does better than the first one, though. And it is something that they did highly talk up about, like listening to feedback from the first one. I do think they did try to make it scarier, and I do think they made it feel much larger in scale because there's more animatronics, and it feels like it spans more than just a location.
True. That is absolutely true. I did not take that into account. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely much bigger because, of course, you know, we go into a school or some sort of convention, and then we have, you know, Faz Fest as well, and the animatronics as well. It definitely seemed larger, and yeah, they did try to make it more scary. I would admit I got more scared in that movie than the second one, the first one, sorry, because I would admit there's a lot of jump scares where it just seemed too quick, and you just got caught, you know, out of the wrong place. You know, you could be watching it, and out of the blue, like a second later, boom, pop, the puppet just comes out of nowhere and jump scares you. You know, I would admit it's definitely more scary than the first one. I will admit, I did get jumped quite a lot.
Both of those things are good. Those are my main two positives I can give the film. I think the animatronics look great. I appreciate
True.
that there's more of a presence from them.
I feel like, you know, those are like two like big things. But if you think of like minor things like the soundtrack, you know, the animatronics, the cast, it's really great, you know, and the collabs as well. Like they got, I saw on YouTube, well, no, not YouTube, TikTok. They got 8-Bit Ryan and Dorka and a lot of other people in the FNAF movie. So that's really nice to see.
I also think they did a great job with Marionette's design. That character is
I didn't. I mean, I liked it. The puppet itself, I thought the animatronic is really cool, But having, the puppet controlling people, I did not like that.
By far the eeriest part of the cast here in a film that's already devoid of scariness. Not that that's actually a negative I have for it. I don't go into Five Nights at Freddy's expecting to get fucking goosebumps, tingles, and covering my eyes in fear.
I was not like that. No, I just got unexpected. I was like, just jumping a bit, like that.
This is Weenie Hut Jr. horror for toddlers. It is meant to be like a gateway horror franchise for kids, and in that aspect, it does excel. It is a juggernaut IP when it comes to kids' horror property. So it's not like I'm complaining that it didn't make me, a 31-year-old man, afraid. I just wanted to point out that as far as designs go, Marionette, I think, was the most successful, but also the biggest wasted potential, because most of the time you see Marionette, it's when she's possessing somebody else, and in that instance, they just give, like, wacky eyes to the person with, like, Slender Man long arms and, like, little claws, fucking noodle hands, like salad fingers.
I said this in my review, right? That I personally did not like the way Marionette moved and controlling the people. I did not like how they moved. It was just really awkward. I would go and say, but yeah, I mean, like, I feel like what they should do is they should make Violence of Freddy's an 18 and have more death scenes. Because that's what people want. They want to see the death scenes, and I feel like if they made it an 18, not a 15, they could add so much more bloodshed. There was definitely more swearing in it. I noticed that. But they could put, more death scenes.
And it's a much less cool and less original look. But anyway, like I said, another thing I liked is that it does feel much larger than the first one. I love the new
Some of my fingers. Sorry about that.
Five Nights at Freddy's location. I think it's a very cool set. And I also think they knocked it out of the park when it came to William Afton's pieces.
Yeah, true.
Even though there's only 2 sections, I'm pretty sure, with him in there, they are the highlights of the entire film. They are
Really? I can kind of see why.
done really
Explain.
well. The opening sequence, the flashback to Marionette and Charlotte, we're going to be getting into spoilers, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. That sequence where she's trying to save that child that William has kidnapped back there and then he is chasing her, I think they did an extremely good job with. The dream sequence with Vanessa confronting her father, William Afton, I also thought was extremely well done. I would have liked to see more of that, because those 2 scenes are the only scenes in the movie that bother with building tension or suspense. The rest of the film, even though, like I said, I understand this is meant as, like, horror for kids, the rest of the film is literally just jump scares with no attempt at building up to them. So it's
I feel like the creepy atmosphere music and the soundtracks that they added in kind of built that suspense up a bit. Like, I've said this before, right? I'm in the media department in my college, so I work on films, analyzing stuff, and I didn't really bother to analyze it because I just wanted to enjoy it instead of analyzing the film. So when I do see the FNAF 2 movie again, whenever I do, I will definitely analyze it. But he does make a great point, to be fair. He really does make a very strong, great point on those scenes, Like, they did spell suspense and the rest didn't. I can kind of see what he says, but I feel like the tension was it was definitely there, but I feel like I could kind of understand why he thinks it wasn't.
just like random loud noise. Here's fucking Chica grabbing a guy through the glass door here. Big loud explosion noise. Breaking glass over here. And when you just have that as your main, like, scare moment, it just feels a little flat because there was no suspense building up to it at all. But like I said,
Uh, I guess. I don't know. Toy Chica killing the professor, I think it is. I mean, I thought it was a really cool, death scene, but I can kind of see why it had no suspense and tension uprise. But yeah, I mean, the guy literally stuck his legs out still for Toy Chica to kill him. So I don't know.
I do think this one is scarier than the first one. It does seem like they tried to put more of an emphasis on this kind of thing happening, which I appreciate. Like, I do think it's going in a good direction there for the third one, I suppose. But now, like I said, one of the compliments I gave about like I love that it feels larger, love the new location. Well, I actually do have like a little hemorrhoid that I want to slap onto that butt there for a second because I do like that, and they set up something that I thought was gonna be very cool with Fazbear Fest, fucking Faz Fest, where like they're celebrating Freddy Fazbear and all of this shit, and they talk about it a lot. There's flyers, there's hype around the town, and then the movie is gradually building to a big final showdown. You are led to believe it's going to be at this festival and it's going to be a fucking bloodbath. But it's not. The final battle just happens in one room of a house.
True. Oh, that is definitely true.
So, like, why even bother setting up the Fazbear Festival? It played absolutely no role in the plot at all. And from what I've read online, the third film, the conclusion here to this trilogy, also doesn't take place at the Faz Festival. So, what the fuck was even the point in putting this here in the first place? It did nothing.
He does raise an absolutely great point with that. I will admit, he does raise an amazing point. Wow. You know what? Fair enough. Like, Fazfest was like that basically, and there was no bloodshed. You got to realize that it was a 15 movie, so as much as I want to see animatronics going downtown in the Fazfest, slaughtering everyone, Jason Voorhees style, ain't gonna happen because it's a 15. That's why I say, right, the FNAF movies should be at least a 16 or an 18. So they can put way more bloodshed in, way more death scenes, and it'll just be an amazing thing. Like, look, for example, the Banana Splits movie, right? Killer animatronics at this, show, killing all these people. There's about, I would say about 30 death scenes, right? Maybe a little less, but like you can see like 40 death bodies or something like that. That is what an 18 should be, and I felt like FNAF should have those death scenes, but it just doesn't happen because it's a 15. But Banana Splits is like an 18 film, so that's why I'm always saying that FNAF should have been an 18. Should have never been a 15. Should always be an 18 because they could do so much more suspense, make it way more terrifying, and add a lot more bloodshed in. And I just think that'll be way more better.
Absolutely nothing. And it would have been a great final showdown space for this, too. It just feels like a real missed opportunity, and maybe it's what they wanted to do initially but couldn't because of budget or something, perhaps.
They had quite a big budget, I'm pretty sure. Like, actually, I don't know, because I felt like the budget was quite small. I mean, if you think about a Blumhouse studio, they don't really make a lot of, like, major hit films. But at the same time, they do as well, if that makes sense. Like, I think Finance of Freddy's is Blumhouse's biggest film, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't really know a lot of um movies that they made, but I felt like the budget was quite small. I know the FNAF 2 budget, the FNAF 1 budget was not the best. Like, I think it was like around 50 mil, I think. So that's probably why. Like, a lot of movies, they do have to cut budgets and stuff. So I do understand, but yeah.
I don't know. But it just felt really lackluster watching the final battle happen in a room, whereas it could have easily have happened at the festival. In fact, while they were talking right before that final battle, the festival was mentioned. I was like, okay, we're about to fucking take this shit outside, aren't we? We don't. Anyway, though, I want to get more into the meat and potatoes of things. When I mentioned that flashback, the intro, I think that was like probably the strongest part of the film, but it also sets up the main villain's motivation, Charlotte. She is at the OG Five Nights at Freddy's, the genesis of this evil, and she sees that kid get kidnapped, and she tries to tell some of the parents there about it, and they all brush her off. And it's really weird.
Yes,
So like
true.
she goes up to this guy and she's like, "Help, help, this child just got kidnapped." And he's like, "Go tell your parents! Get the fuck away from me! What are you, a kid getting kidnapped? That's impossible! You're out of your goddamn, where are your parents? Go talk to them, don't talk to me." And so he like yells at her, and then she's like, "Oh geez, okay." So she goes up to some other parents, some ladies, and like, excuse me, grown-ups are talking. Scram, shoo, kidnapping? As if, kidnapping, never even heard that. What does that even mean? You're making things up, you're crazy, get out of here, shoo. It's like, okay. really weird. That's extremely weird. And I get that we needed this as motivation for this character, so when she does die because of William Afton stabbing her, it's fuel for her rage, where she hates parents because she believes they are responsible for her death. And she's right to assume that, because if
True.
these parents had just listened to her warning them about the kidnapping she just witnessed taking place, she would probably still be alive, and William Afton may have been stopped in the very beginning.
The thing is, that would never happen because if that did happen, then it would just be like an 8-minute movie. But yeah, I do see his point. I do see his point. If if it was like the real world, right, and if a kid runs up to you, and let's just say you're a parent, right, a kid runs up to you and says, "Oh, there's kidnapping going on," you would immediately stop what you're doing and try to help that child or call the police or something, not brush off the child. So yeah, I do strongly agree with what he says.
Oh, to a
And I know
mighty
to
well
add,
bright Friday.
What I don't get, though, is in what universe would any parents react like that to hearing that a child just got kidnapped?
just said that.
That blew my mind. When that was happening in that scene, I was like, what the fuck? Why would they be looking at her like she just fell out of a spaceship or something?
Maybe to do with like Charlotte not being a very important person in the birthday party, because like at the start she was just looking at the trap door waiting for the puppet to rise, and then only one person, which I'm pretty sure was Vanessa, actually just spoke to her basically and gave her like, I don't know, like a Baz ice cream or something, or Baz soda or something. I don't really know. And then when they blown out the candles and the cake, she just kind of sat there, sogging rupee. I don't really know what to call it. Like, she's very sad and distracted. So she's not really an important person there. So I don't really know. Like, I never really understood, outside of things with the animatronics, at the nights, what really happens in the day. Is there multiple birthday parties? Is there just one birthday party? You see what I mean? So I do understand what he says, like Charlotte not being a very important person in the starting scene. I do understand it, but at the same time, it makes sense why, to add character, add a story to why Charlotte hates these these adults, these parents.
For bringing up a very legitimate concern that she could have just witnessed. Why are we just ignoring that? And then she ends up getting murdered, which ends up getting covered up. Like, surely the parents would have connected dots like, oh, that girl I was telling us about the kidnapping, she's been murdered. Maybe something was fishy going on there. Nah. Surely it was her fault. Just no foul
All fairness though to Charlotte, like getting the child back to safety while getting 3 stab wounds to the back, fair enough.
play. I don't know. Just I think the villain motivation here makes a lot of sense. She died, and in her last moments, she only had one emotion left: rage at the parents that let this tragedy.
The thing is, in the actual FNAF lore, a lot of the animatronics do get enraged. I'm not sure if it's just by the parents, but it might be just by William Afton.
Happen. But I feel like they knew what they wanted the motivation to be. It's a strong motivation, but they couldn't get like a real logical way of having that come across other than just having like these outrageously aggressive combative parents that would somehow like ignore a kidnapping alarm. So that was just a little weird to me. Not the biggest complaint in the world, but just something I wanted to mention.
Yeah, he does raise a great point in that, like I said, right, I never really look at the negative things about the movie because, like I said, it's insane we had a second FNAF movie. So that's why I never really cared about the negatives. I just really enjoyed it. So looking back and, him basically saying all this negative stuff, I do agree where he's coming from. He does raise a great point. That's why we're reacting to him. He raises good points.
But piggybacking off of this point, I have to make a mention of what actually is a big complaint of mine: how awful the script is. Holy cannoli. Now, I know far be it from me to sin by criticizing Five Nights at Freddy's writing here, being someone that has only played a handful of the games. I haven't done the extensive homework and research required to comprehend the universe.
Been there, done that.
But this film It unapologetically makes the assumption that everyone seeing it knows every single tidbit of lore before watching this, which I actually don't fault it for at all. That's not a big negative to me. I would much rather a film cater to the built-in audience. It's the whole point in adapting something. I would
That's what FNAF is. It's meant to be built for the audience, for the actual fans of the franchise, right? If, let's just say, right, a 50-year-old geezer walks into the cinema, they never seen Five Nights at Freddy's, they don't know anything about the animatronics or the lore, or they've never seen the game. They know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's. Watch Five Nights at Freddy's, never heard of it, and he walks in, he would go and hate the movie. That is a fact, right? That's why critics say it's like, I don't know, a 13% on Rotten Tomato and a 3 out of 10 on IGN, because critics, they don't like stuff like that. That's why the Minecraft movie got negatively impacted, because a lot of people don't like it. But again, it's for the fans. So that's why it's very positive. And I know Sonic, got a lot of glaze for it, for their movie, to be fair. But at the same time, it's for the fans, it's like a gift, you know. We thank you for, helping our game reach a massive audience. We'll give you a movie for a thank you. So that's the reason why.
much prefer if this was the standard than something like the Halo TV series where it abandons the fan base. I would much rather it appeal to the hardcore fans. So I appreciate that, even though I'm not in that target demographic. So there were things that I had questions about, like didn't fully understand because it seemingly comes out of nowhere. But I learned, thanks to the group chit-chatting behind me and basically just reciting Wikipedia pages anytime something happened. They were kind of filling in the blanks on things that were confusing to me. I believe that a lot of like the randomness that gets thrown into this film, all cattywampus, actually makes sense if you played the games. Like it has lore significance to the games more so than it does for the movie. So even though it feels out of place and doesn't make sense in the context of the film, if you played the games, it helps you understand that. So I imagine people like me that haven't played a ton of the games and don't fully understand the world will be equally as confused by certain things that just happen to randomly spring up here. But that's not like the biggest deal in the world to me. I think that's okay, and you can excuse that because, again, it does seem like the main audience here is supposed to be Five Nights at Freddy's fans, laser focused on that.
Yeah, the audience is a FNAF fan base, so that's the reason why.
But outside of that, the dialogue between characters is trash.
Really? I don't know. Enlighten me, please.
Like much worse than the first one. Like, I actually think they did a big step backwards when it comes to character writing in this film. Not only that, I also feel like they had no idea how to get from point A to point B in a way that makes sense. So, example, at the end of the movie, everything's going tits up. The animatronics have broken free. Charlotte's going out to try and kill the parents and stuff. They're trying to stop her. Well, at one point, Vanessa's car breaks down at the most important moment while they're trying to get to Mike's house. And it breaks down, seemingly like in the middle of nowhere. There's no other cars on the road or anything like that. And she's like, ah, damn!
Oh, wait, I know what he's talking about.
And then it just so happens Mike's friend drives by and he's like, hey, that doesn't look good. You need a ride? How incredibly convenient that he's just out and about at this time of night in the middle of nowhere to give her a ride to Mike's place without asking any questions about why or what's going on. Instead, all he says is, crazy eyes. And that kind of thing is present throughout the entire film with these crazy conveniences, and it feels like
to be fair though, a lot of movies out there have, crazy convenient stuff, and that really annoys me. I do understand with that, I do agree with that. The stupid convenient stuff like that. I think, there should be a journey. To be fair though, it's probably good that they did it because, again, budget cuts, cutting ties, and maybe the movie would be a lot more longer. So maybe they could have done something where, like, Vanessa just runs instead or something, maybe they could have done something like that.
everyone in this world just has the ability to teleport. Like, they all have Goku's instant transmission.
Don't know what that is. I don't know anime whatsoever, so I'm sorry if I don't know that.
Every single
I'm assuming it's some sort of teleporting thing.
one of them can go exactly where they need to be instantly. Like, there's no sense of, like, scale where it takes a while to go from, like, Freddy Fazbear's place to Mike's house. It feels like they're neighbors, really. Like,
I I mean, like, I kind of see what he's trying to say. Like, they do drive there. Abby does bike to the Final Freddy's second location, which weird because it just appeared out of nowhere as well.
Abby can ride her bike there in what feels like a matter of like minutes, even though I imagine it would be miles. But she can get there in minutes, build an entire robot with the help of Chica, and get back in time to sleep, and then go to school for the science fair.
True, that is such a great point. Honestly, that's really a great point. Honestly, like because we don't really know the distance between where the FNAF 2 location is and where Mike's house is. Like, for all we know, it could have been like 10 miles. How long does it take to actually ride a bike for a mile? How long does that take? Okay, so let's just say Abby experience. So let's say she can bike 10 to 15 miles per hour. Let's just say this FNAF location is, let's say, 20 miles. So, yeah, I do understand. You know, it makes no sense whatsoever.
All in one evening. And keep in mind, this new Freddy Fazbear's place is a place nobody even knew existed because it's been condemned and forsaken for decades.
Well, that's true. Like, this location could be anywhere. It could be 30 miles away. It could be 10 miles away. We don't know. Right? We don't know how the distance between the first location is and the second location is. We don't know the exact location. Abby could be biking for an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. We don't know. I do understand with that, though.
They drove that point home. But I guess it's just like right next to all of them. It's literally just a couple steps away. It's just weird, is what I'm saying. Like everything about the script just feels really fucking weird. So yeah, Charlotte.
I do agree. I do agree with that. You know, like I think you gotta realize, right, that they gotta do like basically one or two scripts. Like they can't, make multiple scripts that they have done before the FNAF 1 movie, because they're gonna make another movie as soon as possible. Because you gotta realize that Abby in the first movie was like what 10 years old. In this movie, she's 12. I think she is. So that's why they gotta hurry up because filming a movie with children is not easy because they grow up very soon. Look at Young Sheldon, for example. That series carried out for a long, long, long time, and we had this kid, Sheldon, which was about, I say like what, he's like maybe 7 years old, 8 years old during Young Sheldon's first season, and at the end of the last season, he's 16, 15, 14 years old, you see. So they can't always do that before they get old. Look at, for example, Die with the Wicked films. The same with like that, with Greg, that's his name. So I do understand that they gotta be quick with the scripts. Like they gotta do one script, but here's the thing, right? Because they done the first movie, they can piggyback with that script and add on more story developments with the next script. So it's a bit more easier to do what to do next, thanks to the first one. So that's why it might take less time. But I do agree with what he's saying.
Charlotte becomes the marionette, the puppet, and she wants to kill all parents. Her best friend was Vanessa, so now Vanessa is connected to this original event, and Vanessa knew all about this, even used a music box to like pacify her, keep her asleep at bay. But then her brother gets some spectral scoopers in there who free Charlotte. So
Michael Afton. I got confused with Michael Afton and William Afton. I forgot about each one. Goes to show that I have not seen any lore in like nearly 2-3 years. So yeah, so I was a bit confused with Michael and William Afton because I was just confused with that, But I thought Michael Afton was like one of the good guys, and now he's a bad guy. To be fair, like I said, it's their own lore. They're gonna do what they do with their own franchise. This is a different universe between the actual games.
now she can go on her rampage killing parents. No parents get killed. In fact, I think there's only one death outside of that Spectral Scoopers crew. And
yeah, that was, if I remember correctly, you got the 3 kids, the Charlotte at the start. So, I think there's only 5 deaths. Surely. Yeah, surely there's only 5 deaths. Yeah. Also, another thing I want to say, where the hell was Michael Afton after Mike's friend knocked him out, basically?
And that's the piece of shit teacher who just gets his head popped.
Yeah, there's only 5 death scenes. Wow, shit. Damn.
Like a watermelon. That's something
I sure there's more death. Yeah, there's more death scenes in the first one. What the fuck?
I also want to mention that I think is a positive. It seems like they really did want to push the PG-13 rating. They did try and give you like some gruesome deaths. I appreciated that they tried to go pretty hard there. I think that was a nice surprise. So anyway, back to the narrative. It is now up to Mike and Vanessa to team up to try and stop this from happening, because now Abby gets mixed up in it since Charlotte can control the other animatronics. She lures Abby into a trap, believing that it's her friends coming back, that kind of thing. It's clearly not, and thus they have to save Abby and stop Charlotte.
Toner and ink.
Get yours in a blink.
Ugh.
For less than you think.
I think the dynamic between Mike and Vanessa here is fucking terrible. Mike is
Really?
basically just like, I hate you, Vanessa. You didn't tell me about this. I can never trust you again, and I won't even hear you out on anything ever again. I refuse to believe in you ever. I spit on you. Stay away from us. Like, I understand feeling like a bit betrayed and being like a little hesitant to trust her because she kept such a big thing from him. But I would also argue that she went above and beyond and did more than he did to protect his sister. like I feel like Mike had the least amount to do here. It was mainly Vanessa. Mike was basically
I would admit, Mike didn't really have a significant role in the second film. I do agree with that. I feel like it's a bit shitty with the story with Mike and Vanessa, you know, them cutting ties. Because now you got Charlotte the puppet controlling Vanessa now, and you got Springtrap, you see, and whatever Michael Afton is, you know, so you got the 3 Aftons roaming the streets basically now, and it's a pain in the ass. It's a really big pain to see that, you know. It really is. I feel like Mike could have given more trust in Vanessa, you know, because like Penguin just said. Can I call him Penguin? Or should I call him Penguin Zero? I don't know. I feel bad. But I do understand what he's trying to say.
just playing the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's game, which I actually thought was a series of decent
Yeah, true.
scenes where he's like at the security booth and he's got to wear the mask. That was kind of cute. Like, I don't have any big complaints there. But
I do have a complaint though. In my opinion, the animatronics were too slow. You know, when I played FNAF 2, Withered Bonnie would jump scare me within the span of 0.8 seconds of being into the office. Probably even less. So I gotta have a fraction to react, put on the mask in time. And there is, you know, Mike just putting on the mask very slowly, and then the animatronics walk like this. Like, you see what I mean?
it truly felt like it was Vanessa's story and Mike was taking a backseat in it now. And yet,
Yeah. I feel like they push between Vanessa's story way more than Mike's story. You know, like first movie was all about Mike. Second movie is now about Vanessa. Yeah, I do agree. Like, to be fair though, it was kind of, you know, with Vanessa either way with the first one, with because, you know, she's an Afton. It's kind of like with Luke Skywalker, you know. It's kind of like with him because, you know, he's this hero in Star Wars, and then you got his dad who's part of the dark side, you know, and you got you got Leia, Princess Leia, who is, you know, part of the good side. You know, it's kind of like that. You know, it's like a Jekyll Hyde type scenario with the family. You know, you got one good person and the rest are evil. You know, so I do understand where he's coming from.
he still has the gall to be like, fuck you, Vanessa. And then the film ends on like a cliffhanger, setting up for number 3.
Yeah, I hated the cliffhanger in FNAF 2. I said it before in my one. I hated the cliffhanger so much. I really did, because I thought it would continue more, but no. Instantly cut to the end, and then all you heard was, "It's been so long."
And I think that is why I'm so surprised so many people are like still really glazing this, because this film really feels like it is solely here to set up for the finale, so little actually gets solved
True. Oh, you know what? You raised an amazing point, you know.
or anything in that regard in this film. It is all just putting the pieces on the board for the finale. So it doesn't
Is there going to be a fourth FNAF? I don't know if there's going to be four FNAF films. I don't know. I heard that they definitely are making more. I don't know if they're making, you know, the third one and then the fourth one. I don't know because they did say that the fourth FNAF film was going to be the last FNAF film. They might do that with the movies, but I don't know.
feel like it ever even reaches any kind of like third act or a climax or anything. It just goes until it abruptly stops, until it stops going, getting you ready for the third movie. And that's why I'm saying I just feel like it's kind of weak. Even if you're the biggest fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, you are basically just watching the setup for the third one. Now, if you watch all three of these when the third one eventually comes out, I'm sure this one won't feel as lackluster since you immediately can flow right into the third one if you so choose.
Yeah, true, true.
But now having to wait till the next one, you're left with just an experience that is just setup without anything else. I could keep yapping about the movie, but I don't think there's any value in doing that. I think that's probably pretty worthless because if you already liked the first film or you just like the property, I have no doubt you're going to like this one. I think it
Yeah.
does exactly what fans of Five Nights at Freddy's want, which is just provide them with the things they know from the game on the big screen. So it boils down to, do you like Five Nights at Freddy's? If you check yes on that box, you'll probably like the movie because it is just showing you all the things you already liked from the property in the games. And if you like the first movie, you'll probably like this one even more because, like I said, it does two things better than the first film, which is it does make it feel larger and does make it feel like it's trying harder to be scary or disturbing. So, yeah, if you're already a fan of the franchise, I have no doubt you're probably really happy with this film. As someone who does not really like Five Nights at Freddy's, I do not like green eggs and ham. Didn't find a whole lot to love about this one, sorry to say. But maybe the third one. Maybe the third one's where they finally win me over. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.
Yeah. You know what? Fair point. You know, he does raise an amazing point. Yeah, I really can't argue with what he said, you know. I really can't argue. He raised an amazing point. He really did. Yeah, I gotta agree. I gotta agree with what he said, you know. A lot of the stuff, you know, he did say, I do agree with, but there were some bits I was like, I don't understand what you mean, or I just don't get it. So yeah, you know what? I do agree with what Penguin Zero is saying. You know, I do strongly agree with what he said. You know, I really did agree. Um, it does raise a great point on a lot of the scenes, especially with, you know, the starting sequence of, you know, Charlotte going up to the parents, the teleportation bit, Abby going to the FNAF 2 location out of the blue. He does raise a great point. I do understand. So obviously he doesn't like it because he does not understand Final Freddy's, and that's, you know, completely fine. He's probably the type of person who's probably played like three, four, five of the games, don't really like the games that well, but would go and see the movie either way because he knew Final Freddy's. That's what I'm getting at, you know. That is what I'm getting at. So I do agree with what he's saying, but he's probably not a big major fan, and you know that is fine. That's fine. You know, he makes a great point. Like I've said many times already, yeah, I gotta agree. I gotta agree. Some things I don't agree, like I said, but some things I do agree with. From this video, do I look at FNAF 2 differently now? Absolutely. Penguin Zero enlightened me so much, and he gave off some really great, valuable points with, you know, what he said. I gotta agree. I got to agree. So, yeah, you know what? Fair play with him. He definitely enlightened me. If I have to give the FNAF movie a rating as of now, it's got to be a 6 now. 6 out of 10. Maybe a 7 out of 10, but it's saying it like a 6 out of 10 to a 6.5 out of 10. He does raise a great point. Do I love the second movie? Yes, I think it was amazing, but I do agree with what he said. You know, he raises an amazing point. Like I've mentioned billions of times already, he's that type of person who can, you know, persuade people to think of it differently, and I agree. I will admit. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe and have a massive time. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!